All right. Hey, guys and gals. Welcome to Note Night in America. Honored to have you guys all here. Join us here on Monday evening. If this is your first time, hey, welcome. We host these Note Night in America calls just about every Monday night, providing travel or vacation or anything like that, holidays. But been doing this for over 10 years. You can always catch the replays of all of our past and current Note Night in Americas by going to weclosenotes.tv. That's our YouTube channel, weclosenotes.tv. Will give you the replays of all of our Note Night in America webinars, our Note Closer Show podcast, and all of our other educational and training videos on there as well. Always encourage you to check out our main website, weclosenotes.com as well. But if you guys are joining me for the first time, you know who I am. My name is Scott Carson. I'm known across the country as the Note Guy. I've been buying debt for well over 13 years now. I've been an active real estate investor since 2002. Like I said, I've been buying debt since 2008, and you can tell them I am licking my chops to what's going on in the industry right now. Purchased over $1 billion in distressed mortgages in that time frame. Currently investing in roughly about 30 different states. I don't invest in every state, but I know what's going on in most of the states and from the different markets out there. I'm the host of the nationally syndicated podcast, The Note Closer Show. That I tell you to check it out. It would be a great thing. Lots of episodes, 680 episodes now. But the thing I'm most thankful for, most proud of, is the fact I've helped thousands of investors like you guys on there, no matter what your experience is, dive into and start investing in and buying a non-performing notes. And that's what our hope is, to help you identify and find some opportunities tonight for you. And like I said, I call Austin, Texas home. So hook 'em horns. Glad to call. It's been a beautiful day here in Austin, Texas. But anyway, let's dive into this. So this is the second part of this webinar. We've actually did the first part of this 2 weeks ago on the first 20, I guess you'd say from number 40 to 21. And we're going to talk about the top 20 tonight, top 20 markets out there as we rank them. Now, by understanding where we're at now, you have to look at the past. And by the past, I'm not talking about going back 13 years ago. I'm talking about going back to the beginning of COVID, back just over a year ago. And if you look at our peak numbers roughly in March and April of last year, versus our current numbers now, unemployment was at a skyrocket of 14.8% across the country. Currently, it's sitting at right about 6% last time I checked on the Bureau of Labor Statistics just a week or two ago. A mortgage default rate peaked at 8.22. Currently, it's sitting at 4.18. That's still half of what it was, but still about twice what it was before COVID kicked in. We had 2.4 million homeowners that were at least 90 days late, still sitting at 2.1 million homeowners at still 90. That number has not gone down because of the fact there was a lot of people already 30 days behind their mortgage before everything started. Okay. Our peak numbers peaked at about 9% of all borrowers were in forbearance agreement. We're sitting at about 4.9% currently. So it gives you a bit of an idea of what's going on in the mortgage markets and what's kind of affecting this stuff. Now, we all know it's a variety of different things, foreclosure time frames. There is not going to be this sudden huge wave of foreclosures across the country. We know that the government keeps kicking the can down the road, delaying foreclosures, through executive orders. We know that Fannie, Freddie, and all the government loans have decided, hey, we're not going to start foreclosures. That doesn't mean it won't start at some point. There are states already out there starting the foreclosure auctions on non-owner occupied or non-primary residence foreclosures taking place. Entities, investment properties are already taking place right now. So one of the things that I like to track, besides the foreclosure rates, the default rates across the country, are also unemployment rates. Because as we know, if somebody's not able to work, they've been unemployed for a while, they're not going to be able to not only pay, they're going to make a decision either putting a bread on the table, food on the table for their family, paying their utilities, or paying their mortgage. And 9 times out of 10, we know that paying their mortgage is not going to be the priority. And if you look at the unemployment rates of the top large metropolitan cities, these cities that have 1 million or more, you can kind of see how it ranks out. With a national unemployment rate at 6%, what I chose to do is, okay, let's look at cities that have a higher than the government average of the unemployment rates. And that takes us to some of these cities. Now, some of these you're not going to see on our list tonight. Some of these you will see. Some of these you saw in our first half. All right, and we'll get to that later on. But you can see real quickly that some of these are some pretty decent cities. Now, what I have done also for tonight is I've taken other things. I've taken cities that had high vacancy rates, cities that had a higher default rate, looked at unaffordability. What does that mean? An affordability or versus unaffordability rate? Taking a look at an annual salary and comparing that to the average sales price in a city and giving it a percentage to see if it's Anything above 33% rate that way is a good thing because people are making more than the cost of housing. If it's a low affordability rate, that means the house is a lot more than what people are making in. Ideally, if you're buying a house, you want your mortgage roughly be about, your housing costs be really no more than 38% of where you're at. If you're in that 30% range of what your income, it would take basically 3 years of your salary to pay off your house, you're roughly sitting pretty good, but other cities out there are not. So anyway, we come up with this list of 40 cities. We'll do a quick recap of the top 20. So the first 20 we went through last time we had this, but how do we rank these cities? We looked at the percentage of homes were 30 to 89 day late and then 90 plus day late. That's two separate rankings. We looked at another ranking of the vacant home percentage across these cities. We looked at the foreclosure rate prior to executive orders kicking in place beforehand. And so it gives you a bit of an idea if it's going to peak or fall. We looked at existing unemployment rates. We also look at home affordability. We talked about this before, median income versus median home price. And then we ranked these cities, these 40 cities that we pulled across different categories. And then we re-ranked them by an average across the different categories. And so that's how we came up with our 1 through 40, okay? Now tonight, we're not focused on 40 to 21. I meant to change that. We focused on that last week. We're gonna focus on 20 to number 1, which is really why you guys are tuning in here. What cities have the opportunities? And I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna be surprised by these. There's no cities in California on this list. 1 through 40, no California cities. That's not a surprise to me, okay? Very surprised that there were several cities in Texas. That really kind of shocked my mind, being here in Texas and seeing how the economy is done. So anyway, quick rank, 40 was Topeka, 39 was Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 38 was Jacksonville, Florida. The replay from 2 weeks ago is up, so if you want to see how each city kind of went into its ranking, you can download that and watch it. Louisville, Kentucky came in 37, Clearwater, Florida was 36, Hampton, Virginia was 35, Tulsa, Oklahoma was 34, Winston-Salem was 33, Hartford, Connecticut was 32. That was kind of a surprise. Birmingham, Alabama was 31. Killeen, Texas, which is where Fort Hood roughly is 30. 29 was Amarillo, Texas. There's the Cadillac Ranch photo. Atlanta, Georgia, surprised to make the list of the top 40, came in at 28. Orlando, not surprised at the amount of unemployment they've had and seen, came in at 27. Memphis, Tennessee, 26. Little Rock, Arkansas, 25. City I grew up in, Corpus Christi, Texas, down on the coast, came in at 24. That was a surprise. Baltimore, Maryland, 23. Newark, New Jersey at 22. And Miami, Florida came at 21. I see Sandra Cho on here. You might be surprised that Miami came in there because a lot of growth, but they have a lot of defaults. Now, as we roll into the top 20 here tonight, I wanted to make sure and ask, are there any questions before we get rocking and rolling tonight? If you like a copy of my PowerPoint slides, I'll have them up on SlideShare for you to take a look at later on by tomorrow when I send the replay out links with everybody, okay? So if you'd like a copy of my slides, you'll be able to get those. No questions asked for you guys, okay? Court asked a good question. What resources are you using to determine the list? I'm pulling a list of Bureau of Labor statistics. I'm looking at default rates across the country. I'm looking at vacancy factors. I'm looking at home affordability. Let me share something with you here. Let's see if I can pull this up. So this is kind of my sheet I pulled. There was a list pulled out of the top 40. When I did, I went right back and ranked. So total housing units, homeowner vacancy rate factors, 30 to 89 day lates. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. 90 plus days delinquency rates, okay, high rate, total percentage behind across the board. Foreclosure rates, okay, unemployment rates, household income, median income. All right, and then we re-ranked them all together. So that's how we kind of came up with that for you, Court. All right, there was a list put out of these top 40 cities, and I didn't like the ranking them because I didn't think they took into affordability and some other things into them, and I was correct. So what we've done is re-rank these to basically help us come up with a better list for you, okay? Now, each market's gonna vary depending on where, foreclosure timeframes will vary. We've even done it a little bit different to take a look at what kind of programs, if they are available or if they've started foreclosure. But I believe, based on everything I've seen and my history, is that these 40 cities are going to be some of the better ones to target if you're looking for deals. All right. If you're looking for deals that make sense. We're not talking $1 million markets. Now, so there's 1 or 2 markets on there that have some higher price real estate. But you have to know inside of these cities, there's gonna be some opportunities. Some might be a little bit longer to get, which means if it's a longer foreclosure process, it's gonna be cheaper getting the debt like it was beforehand, okay? So let's get rocking and rolling here. What do you say, everybody? All right, so coming at number 20, Augusta, Georgia, all right? Came in at number 20 on our list. And here's kind of the numbers behind it. So there are 88,000 housing units in Augusta. 4.3% of the households are currently behind at least 30 to 90 days. Somewhere in there, they're at least that many months behind, okay? 4.3% of households are behind. Now, before foreclosure, offices, they had one out of every 2,800 homes, 2,880, 2.8, one out of every 2,879 homes was in foreclosure before COVID started. It was the third highest on the list as far as the numbers are for you, okay? So opportunity beforehand. Now, it does have a nice home affordability, 32.1%, which is not bad. It's an affordable area. It ranked an average of 20 across the different categories. The median home price, very affordable at $132,000. And right now, out of the 87.8 thousand, there are 3.9% of the houses are vacant currently. Okay, out-of-state owners, people that have it as a second home. In Georgia, it's a relatively faster foreclosure state, 1 to 3 months to foreclose. There's no protection besides the government, the federal protection right now. But there is Georgia does have a rental assistance program, which will give you up to potentially 15 months of rents and mortgage payments if your borrower or tenant is available for it. That's why I like it. It's got some incentives for you. It could be a possibility for you to put in place, okay? Number 19, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Steel City, right? 159,000 units, about twice the size of Augusta. 3.8% of the households are currently behind. One out of every 5,000 homes were roughly in foreclosure beforehand. It's got a little bit lower affordability rate, 24.2%. It ranked an average of 20 across different categories. Median home price of $201,000. 1.5% are vacant. It's got a high unemployment rate, 8.3% compared to the national average of 6%. That's why I think we're going to see more defaults in this area, in this city, than in other areas. When you already see that our households are behind, you're going to, and unemployment is still high, that's going to cause for more opportunity. It takes about 4 to 12 months to foreclose. Judicial foreclosure, there's not really any protection besides the federal stuff. There are some rental assistance programs in the state of Pennsylvania that are available. I think they just released another $400 million in potential assistance for rental assistance programs or owner, your tenants, your borrowers on your owner finance stuff or things like that. It'd be available. So check it out. Okay. This surprised me. Number 18 was San Antonio, Texas. This was probably one of the biggest surprises on the list. Of San Antonio, Texas came in at number 18. Now, I live in Austin, Texas, and it's kind of different. Now, San Antonio, Texas, 561,000 housing units. That's a pretty good size demographic. That's not number of people. That's number of housing units, okay? 4.6% of those households are currently behind, okay? Basically, before it was 1 out of every 8,100 homes were in foreclosure before COVID. It's got a 25.5% home affordability rate. That's okay. It ranked an average of 20 across the rest of the different categories. No surprise. Median home price is $206,000, and 3.4% of the total housing units are vacant. Now, $206,000. That's to give you a bit of an idea. That's half of what it is here in Austin. Median home price is right over 400, 410, 415 here in Austin, Texas. A lot of Austin investors have been flocking to San Antonio, Texas, but San Antonio does have some issues. Okay, it is a faster foreclosure state. There's no protection really here in the state. Bear County hasn't started filing foreclosures yet, but there's no really federal protection beyond the state and federal. It does have a bit of a higher unemployment rate, 6.8% unemployment rate right now, currently. Okay, and so you're going to see some opportunities there. But Texas does have a $1 billion Texas Rent Relief Fund that was put in place earlier that you could tap into and go from there. It's an opportunity to work with your borrowers, work with your tenants and stuff like that. But San Antonio, we've seen opportunities when we've actually seen more distressed debt in San Antonio we've ever seen in Austin. That goes back 13, 14 years. I see occasionally see something in Austin. I'll see some stuff more often in San Antonio than I'll see here in the state capital. Okay, moving on. The number 17 is Norfolk, Virginia, home of the Navy shipyards. Okay, the Norfolk, smaller, less than 100,000 housing units, 3.7% of those are behind. One every 5,000 roughly homes were in foreclosure prior to COVID. It's got a 22.6% home affordability, where it's the pricing of homes is outpacing really the median income a little bit. Median home price of $229,000. 3.4% of all households are vacant. Unemployment rate is a little bit above the national average at 6.2%. In Virginia, it's a non-judicial foreclosure state, 4 months to foreclose. And the foreclosure protection set in place by the governor stops 90 days after the state of emergency for Virginia ends. Something to keep that in mind. There is a program called Stay Home Virginia, which does give you borrower and tenant assistance programs. Now, that's part of what I looked into these cities and states in a lot of cases. Like, okay, do I see opportunity there? Yes. Do I see that? Not like the hardest hit funds that used to be around, but there are some programs in place that you may want to take advantage of. Okay. And there's also a $524 million that was just basically allocated to the Virginia Rent Relief Program that came out about just a couple months ago, February of 2021. Something to keep in mind there. All right. Moving on to number 16, Syracuse. Okay. Syracuse, New York. Now, some people say, Scott, why would you say New York? And you also I had Newark on last time we did it. It's because if you live in New York or you live in New Jersey, there are some opportunities. Yes, it's a longer foreclosure time frame, but not everybody that you buy the debt on is going to drag out to foreclosure. There are a lot of opportunities there if you know where to look and if you live locally. Syracuse is a little smaller city, obviously 72,000 housing units, 3.8% of households behind. For foreclosure, basically every 9,500 homes. It's got an affordability rate 22.6%. It ranked an average of 20 across categories. Home price of $138,000, which I liked, which means it was pretty affordable. Okay, and it had a high vacancy rate of 5.2%. Okay. I think part of that is because of the university that's there. Okay. Unemployment rate was also higher at 7.3%. So those two numbers lead to some opportunities. Now, it does take roughly, as they say, 15 plus months to foreclose. This could take you 2 years to foreclose. Foreclosures have resumed, started back up a little bit there in the New York State. There are foreclosure and tenant assistance programs available for you. So if you got a borrower in place that wants to stay, is willing to work with you, you may be able to tap in some of these government programs and turn a non-performing note into a performing note and come out pretty good. And the median home price of $138,000, I think it's why it's much more desirable market than New York City or Brooklyn or anything like that. You also look at, you've got some major employers in the neck of the woods. Moving on. El Paso came at number 15, the city that we don't really include in Texas. All right. Now, El Paso, Texas, it's in its own time zone. It's not Central Standard Time. It's actually Mountain Central Standard Time in El Paso. But El Paso made the list. Now, El Paso's 250,000. It's a pretty good size market, which I was kind of surprised at that. 5.6% of households are behind currently, which leads to opportunity. For COVID, 1 out of every 6,200 homes were in foreclosure. It's got a little bit higher home affordability rate, 30.7. Let's see here. Median home price is $155,000, which is pretty affordable, but it had the number one vacancy rate compared to the other 40 cities or the other 39 cities, 8.7, almost 10. You'd say round it up to 10 if you wanted to. 10% of the homes were vacant. Okay. It does take its fast foreclosure, obviously, because it is still in Texas. 6.8% unemployment rate is a little higher than the national average. So you see the unemployment, the vacancies, that's kicking in. Of course, we do have that $1 billion Texas Rent Relief Fund that you can use here in Texas to help you collect or help your tenants get back on track. So I was surprised about this, actually very surprised, not only about San Antonio, but El Paso. It's a little bit more affordable, but it is a good sized city. Why are the vacancies? Well, it's probably because you do have people coming across the border. You do have some Mexican nationals that live in El Paso. You'll see that in some of the border cities as well, too. But I still think it's an opportunity for you to pick up some houses pretty relatively cheap that you can foreclose on relatively quickly and make some nice change. Okay. Now, this city, number 14, was a kind of surprise. Now, number 21 on our list was Miami. Number 14 is Miami Beach. They are separate, not the same. Okay. Different demographics. Now, just to give you an idea on Miami Beach, Miami Beach is 66,000 housing units. 3.4% of the households there are behind. Before, it was 1 out of every 6,100 homes were in foreclosure. Okay. Third lowest affordability rate, 14.1% home affordability rate. It means the incomes based on the values are scattered, is not good. Okay. Median home price in Miami Beach, and you've got some $1 million condos that are dragging things out, is $384,000. It's the highest vacancy rate out of the 40 at 8.7%. So you got some vacant, non-performing condos and homes in that neck of the woods. There's gonna be some opportunity there. We've already found some stuff in that neck of the woods. We keep looking at stuff. Okay. Yes, Florida is a judicial foreclosure state. There are foreclosures starting back up. It does take you about 8 to 14 months to foreclose. You may be able to pick up some assets though, where the bank has already started the foreclosure process and be able to step into those shoes. And if it's vacant property, a lot of times the courts will accelerate, or you can work with the borrowers to walk away if it's a vacant property. Okay. There is a large portfolio of money, $850 million Florida rental assistance. And this is for cities with 200,000 or more individuals. Miami Beach obviously falls in that line. And then, the thing to keep in mind with that is that there is still a little bit higher unemployment rate compared to the national average, 6.3%. But there is a lot of money out there for cities, the largest cities in Florida, Miami Beach being one of those, separately from Miami. All right. Mobile, Alabama came in at 13. This is kind of a little bit of a surprise. Mobile, been through there a few times. I like the city. There's 93,000 housing units. 5.4% of households are behind, though. That was kind of a higher number than average. One out of every 8,800 homes in foreclosure prior to COVID. It has about just under a 30% home affordability rate. Median home price of $142,000. Okay, not bad. This should be 2 to 3 months to foreclose, not 2 to 33 months. My apology, I meant to take that off. It's non-judicial, no protection really for the most part. This is what I like about Alabama. Alabama does have some emergency rental assistance programs that can give you payments for your rents or your mortgages, past payments, current, present, and then 3+ in the future. So it's an opportunity to really pick up somewhere around 6 to 7 months of back payments if you step in and can get the borrower or the tenants to work with you. Okay. Now, in our top 12 or top dozen comes the Columbus that many people forget about. Not Columbus, Ohio, but Columbus, Georgia. Actually, Steph's hometown, where she grew up in Columbus, Georgia. And the more I see about Columbus, the more I hear about Columbus, the more I look into it, the more I get excited about Georgia. Everybody gets excited about when you think about Georgia, like Atlanta. I think Columbus is an opportunity. A lot of investors if they know about it, you want to pay attention to Columbus, Georgia. Okay. 85,000 housing units, 4.7% of households behind, kind of on average. 1 every 4,000 homes were in foreclosure prior to COVID. All right. 38.8% home affordability rate. It's third highest on the list. That's really that means that basically people are making some money and the homes are affordable there. Now, by affordability, median home price is $120,000, but it does have 3% vacancies across the board, which is starting to get up. You want to stay that 1% or below that. So it's got some vacant homes. And I think part of that is due to the fact that it is not too far from Fort Benning, the military base that's there. Okay. Now, Columbus is just on the border of Alabama. You get a lot of probably people moving back and forth. Georgia, once again, a fast foreclosure state. And then once again, there is a Georgia rental assistance program up to 15 months. Okay. Another state that rhymes with bacon, Macon, Georgia. Macon, Georgia, I've been through there, like that area. There's 70,000 housing units. 6.2% of the households are currently behind at least 30 to 90 days. That's the fourth highest on the list. 1 every 6,200 homes were in foreclosure prior to COVID. It has a really great home affordability rate. Second highest on the list of 48.4%. It means basically the average income is 48% of what a annual cost is. Okay. Now the median home price is just of 100,000. This is one of the most affordable cities out there. Okay. Low vacancy rate, 1.9%. Okay. 5% unemployment rate. It actually fell below the national average. But the point I'm trying to get at here, fast foreclosures, it does have some stuff coming down the road here. It does have a higher percentage of people being behind. Okay. And I think this is a great opportunity, especially with a median home price being 100K, to pick up some great properties, possibly tap into the Georgia rental assistance programs or some of the federal government plans, and really buy some debt in that neck of the woods or look for houses in that neck of the woods where the rent rates are pretty good. Okay. Number 10 takes us up north, which was kind of a surprise, up to Springfield, Massachusetts, with the numbers that popped up. Now, Springfield, 60,000 housing units, 4.5% of the households were behind. 1 out of every 7,300 homes were in foreclosure before COVID. It had a low affordability rate. This is what is going to be driving a lot of the defaults there, okay? Yeah, Laura, you still need to be licensed to buy in Georgia, or fund with your self-directed IRA is the one exception, okay? All right, good question. All right, but Springfield, 19.1% home affordability rate. This is one of the lower home affordability rates. So you start getting below that 25%. It's expensive to live. It ranked average of 24th across categories. Median home price is $204K. Average income is roughly right around 40 grand. That's why it was set to that 19.1%, 1.8% vacancies, high unemployment rate of 8.3%. This is what you're going to see. People are losing their jobs, staying unemployed, and they can't afford their payments. This is why I think you're going to see a lot of opportunity up in there. Okay, this takes roughly 3+ months to foreclose, non-judicial foreclosure in Massachusetts, but they are eliminating things that you can't start foreclosure until 120 days after the COVID emergency goes out. There are several programs in Massachusetts. You have the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance, ERAP. You've got the RAFT, Residential Assistance for Families in Transition, and Emergency Rental and Mortgage Assistance, or IRMA. So ERAP, RAFT, and IRMA are 3 programs, big programs in Massachusetts. I mean, that federal one is available all across the states, but there's a lot of money out there for you if you buy debt to maybe potentially work with the homeowners in place to keep them in or your tenants, okay? We go south to the border, to Brownsville in Texas here. We saw El Paso earlier. We saw Killeen obviously earlier. This is why I'm surprised. There were 6 Texas cities that made the top 40, which is kind of a rarity for most. But Brownsville, Texas, down along the border, 60,000 housing units. There's 7% of households behind. This was the second highest. Okay, 1 out of every 20,000 homes were in foreclosure prior to this. So what's the big thing? Brownsville was a boom town. So many houses getting built, people coming across, buying houses, but they're behind. Okay, it has a pretty good home affordability rate. Median home price is $119,000, so it's pretty affordable compared to other parts of the state, like San Antonio, Texas, Dallas, Houston. 1.7% of the homes are vacant. Fast foreclosure. This is the kicker: the unemployment rate, 10.9% unemployment rate, the second highest on this list. That's why I'm saying when you have already a high number of households behind and a high unemployment rate, it's going to lead to opportunity if you know where to look. And then, of course, if you want to tap into the $1 billion for the Texas Rent Relief Fund, it's a possibility for you. So Brownsville, keep your eye out on the border towns. I may be actually taking a trip down to Brownsville shortly to take a look at it. Okay. In the words of, we're going to Jackson is number 8 on the list. Jackson, Mississippi. Okay. Not Jackson, Michigan, but Jackson, Mississippi. The largest city in Mississippi, really the only city in Mississippi that has over 100,000 people population. I like Jackson. I've liked it for years. There are 75,000 housing units. 6.1% of those households are currently behind. It's the 4th highest off the list of 40 here. 1 out of every 4,400 homes were in foreclosure prior to COVID. Most affordable city out of this list, 69% home affordability rate. Okay. Why does that make sense? Well, it ranked really good. The median home price in Jackson, Mississippi is $56,000. Now there is a TLC or TNT or HGTV about flipping Jackson or something like that. And I'm seeing these prices. I'm kind of cracking up at some behind. But the median home price in Jackson, Mississippi is $56,000. When you compare that to the rent rates, it's a great city to buy some real estate. 2.5% vacancies. Our friend Walter Wolford's lived there for years, loves it. It's a non-judicial 4-month to foreclose roughly state. So works in your neck of the woods. You're taking property back. There's not really any protection besides the federal stuff. There are no state programs to help out the people behind in Mississippi. Okay. Most affordability. If you're buying seen homes at $56,000 and you're picking them up at $28,000 and you need a little work and you put somebody in there, this can be a gold mine for you. So Jackson, Mississippi, while it's number 8, the number 8 on my list, yeah, it may become one of my top 5 or 6 cities to look at here over the next couple months. Okay. So Jackson, Mississippi, pay special attention to that. Lafayette, Louisiana, we get into the gumbo state. All right. Louisiana, Lafayette, no surprise here. 59,000 housing units. So it's about the same size as Jackson and a few others. 4.9% of the houses behind, 10th highest on the list. One every 5,400 homes were in foreclosure prior to. They had a pretty good affordability rate of 28.3. Median home price is 181,000, with 2.4% of all households being vacant. About 9 months to foreclose. Judicial is not really in protection. There are some rental relief programs that went into play in March of this year. And it has, this was kind of the surprise thing, 5.6% unemployment, a little bit low the national average. Okay. But the affordability is nice, and there are people behind right now. So, you can see it's almost a direct correlation between the unemployment rate and households behind for the most part. But Lafayette, you get the University of Louisiana Lafayette there is one of the major employers there. As they get back to normal, I think it'll be a great place for you to be investing on there. Okay. Then we jump north to the city of brotherly love. This was a surprise. Philadelphia making my list at number 6. I think it's one of the largest cities on this list, 692,000 units. I had a realtor argue with me about the numbers recently, and I was like, listen, numbers don't lie. 4.1% of households were currently behind at least 30 to 90 days. Okay, that opportunity right there, 4.1% of 700,000, that's 28,000 households basically there. Before COVID, it was already at 1 out of every 3,600 were in foreclosure. Okay. The home affordability rate, the price values of Philadelphia and around that Philadelphia area are going up faster than income. So that's the affordability rate is 21.9%. Median home price, 210,000, 1.1% vacancies, low vacancy rate because people are gobbling up homes or moving there, trying to move up. It's a judicial foreclosure, 4 to 12 months to foreclose. There's no state protections in place. There are some rental relief programs. And this is the thing, the biggest kicker, the 11.2% unemployment rate. It was the highest on the list. Okay. So you have a households behind, you have people that are unemployed. So people are gobbling up houses when they go in default, but there's still going to be a lot of opportunity because, hey, people will drag stuff out in forbearance agreements, or they'll get dragged out because the can gets kicked down the road. But I think Philadelphia, if you like the Pennsylvania state, PA, city brother of love, you don't have to be an Eagles fan to want to invest in Philadelphia. So you see Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, both in the top 20 here. Okay. Pennsylvania is one of the states you want to pay attention to, especially around those 2 major metroplexes. Okay. Number 5, Viva Laredo, another city down in the border town. And I was surprised that the images I found were not of like empty streets, but it just was some of the better looking photos I could find of this. It kind of surprised me. 80,000 housing units, so it's on par with roughly about what Brownsville is. 10.2% of households behind. This was the highest on the list. Laredo, Texas, people behind. People haven't paid their mortgage and they're leaving. Okay. 1 out of every 10,000 homes were in foreclosure prior to COVID. So it's a big change with what's taken place in the last 12 months. We're just under a 29.5% home affordability rate, so it's not so bad. Median home price is 162,000. 8.7% vacant homes. Okay. People living across the border in Mexico, they left their houses here vacant. A lot of opportunity to buy some vacant homes from some banks. Fast foreclosure, 8.6% unemployment rate, roughly. That's almost 50% higher than the national average. So this is why I think Laredo is a top 5 city. Is an opportunity. There are still people looking to buy. There are some vacancies, obviously, but an opportunity for you to come in and buy up some property that will rebound once things get rock and rolling. All right, Laredo. Viva Laredo, everybody. Okay. Number 4 takes us back to Louisiana, to Shreveport. All right. Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, Shreveport, 91,000 housing units, 5.2% of the households were behind, 8th highest on the list. Before COVID, 1 out of every 3,100 homes were in foreclosure. It's got a decent affordability rate of 33.7. Let's see here. Median home price of 116,000. This was nice affordability area. Shreveport is 2.1% vacant factor, so it's a little bit higher than where you want to be at, but not nearly as high as some of the other cities out there. Once again, Louisiana is a judicial foreclosure state. No protections in place beyond the federal government stuff. 6.9% to foreclose. There are rental relief programs for the whole state of Louisiana, like we talked about beforehand. And it does have a 6.8% higher unemployment rate, which is higher, by almost 1% than the national average. Okay. Same thing, almost directly related to the households behind equal to the unemployment rate. No surprise there. Okay. Fayetteville, North Carolina. This kind of surprised me. North Carolina's been a really booming state for a while. Very desirable. I've bought in North Carolina for years. Love North Carolina. Love the Tar Heel. I'm not the Tar Heel. Yeah, it is the Tar Heel state. Sorry. Great. Fayetteville, I think, is booming in a lot of ways, but I think it's an opportunity for us as investors. 94,000 housing units. Currently, 4.7% of those households are behind. Prior to it, 1 out of every 55,000 homes were in foreclosure. Decent home affordability rate, 31.7. Okay. Median home price is 142,000, 2.1% vacancies right now. So it's not the lowest vacancy factor, but it's still got affordable homes compared to some other parts of North Carolina. It's a non-judicial. You're starting to see some foreclosures starting to pop back up that aren't covered by the executive orders and the federal bans. All right. The state does offer eviction avoidance programs. You want to check on a city by city, state by state level with it. All right. It does, though, have a high unemployment rate, 7.8% unemployment rate. And that's going to fall primarily, these unemployment rates are falling primarily in that sub $200,000 home price. And obviously that's most of, median home price of 1.2. So it's that first time home buyers where I think you've got a lot of opportunity to step in and pick up some assets. And this is it's a faster foreclosure state. North Carolina is a great state to invest in. I like it. It's not rural. Fayetteville, about 250,000 people, if not more. I think some really opportunity people like North Carolina. So keep an eye out for Fayetteville. All right. Number 2, Baton Rouge. All right. Number 2, Baton Rouge in Louisiana. Falls in line with what we've seen already. 104,000 housing units. 6.2% of the households behind. It's the 4th highest on the list. 6.2% of all households behind. Prior to it was 1 out of every 8,700 homes were in foreclosure prior to COVID. A lower affordability rate compared to other parts of the state, 23.3% home affordability. Median home price, 191,000, a little bit higher than the previous ones, 2.4% vacancies. All right. Once again, 6 to 9 months of foreclose. No protection. There are some rental relief programs put in place in March. And it has a 6.2% unemployment rate. That's not a mistype. It is exactly right on track with the number of households behind. Okay. So I think if you like Louisiana, there you go. Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and our number 1 city on the list, the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, obviously, we all know Louisiana has been hit very hard by COVID, which has caused a lot of why the state is making the top list. These cities are making the top list, but New Orleans obviously has been hit very hard. Now, New Orleans, 192,000 housing units, 5% of the households behind. That's only the 8th highest as far as behind compared to the rest of the country. 1 out of every 5,100 homes were in foreclosure prior to. It has a low affordability rate, 4th lowest, 17.2%. Okay. Now, when you look at the median home price in New Orleans is $241,000. Obviously, a lot of that is dictated by what's going on down in Bourbon Street and that neck of the woods. I can't even think what you're talking about. Not the French Quarter. Okay, but New Orleans itself, obviously, it's been hit hard with hurricanes. Everything happened with Katrina and Rita, stuff like that. People have not recovered that. It's relatively fast to foreclose, 6 to 9 months. Not like the 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, but still some opportunity there. No protection in place. There's the rental relief programs. It has an 8.6% unemployment rate, 4th highest. This falls in line with a lot of the service industry, the bars, the restaurants, and stuff like that. I think there's opportunity. If you want to own something in New Orleans, I think it's an opportunity to get into New Orleans and a few other cities along the Gulf Coast there. So now it's no surprise that a lot of these have poor areas in them. Some of these cities, the high-end cities didn't make the list. Not surprised there. But these top 40 cities, ladies and gentlemen, I think is where you're going to see the biggest bang for your buck. And what we're here to talk about, obviously, is your ROI, your return on investment, and your ROT, your return on time. All right. Know your markets, know where the opportunities are at. And I wanted to open up for questions now if anybody's got any questions on the top 20 cities that we talked about. So David asked a good question. What is your take on unemployment rates? Is it better to invest in cities with high or low unemployment? Okay, so here's what you have to do when you're looking at unemployment rate. I think unemployment rate means opportunity. You have to spend the time and look at each city. Okay, like I'll give you an example. Unemployment rates in like Miami, that comes from a lot from tourism, or Orlando. That's a lot of the tourists, the theme parks. Okay, people have been laid off; they still aren't coming back in full time. You really need to know what's going on in each city. I know what's going on, but knowing what's going on in that market, I mean, it helps. It helps. It gives you an identify to track those cities with high unemployment rates, or have the most amount of opportunity. And then it's up to you what you want to focus on in those cities. Okay. Jessica asked a good question. Is there an average cost for foreclosures, non-judicial and judicial? It will vary on a state-by-state basis, Jessica. It can be as cheap as $1,000, roughly $1,000 to $1,500 here in Texas, all the way to like 10 grand in New York State. Okay. It's not what I do when I'm averaging, when I'm running numbers. I will figure, okay, I'll put an average of roughly 2,500 for non-judicial. That's just the foreclosure. Okay. And then an average of roughly around 35, 4 to 5,000 for the judicial foreclosures, depending on the longer the time frame. Okay, New York, New Jersey, I put 10 grand if I'm going to buy there, but I'm not buying there for the most part. Okay, but good question. And the thing to keep in mind, if you're buying in a longer foreclosure state, that should help you get a bigger, cheaper discount from the bank and the lenders, because it is a longer foreclosure state, longer judicial state. Okay. Any other questions before I let you guys go tonight? David, they came when you found these 40 cities. How many cities did they come out from? As many cities there are in the United States. All right. So you could run some numbers like San Diego, California. Look, they're saying like Southern California, San Diego, 30% of the borrowers are at least 90 days behind, but it's such a delay to foreclose there, and banks aren't selling that stuff at a price that makes sense. So I wanted to focus on cities that I thought you guys would have opportunities in. Okay. Wayne says, just an observation, not any in central upper Midwest states. Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that. Not so much up that neck of the woods for sure. It's not what I found, if you look at the poorest states, Alabama, Mississippi, Jacksonville, that's Louisiana, that's what kind of fell into a lot of this stuff. Okay. So which websites to use to scan these properties? I would use Note Pros. You can use a variety of different systems. Some people are using PropStream. We use Note Pros to pull some numbers really fast and some stuff. You got to look at, when we're buying debt, you got to look at the notes, actually the information on the actual note, the debt, the mortgage, the borrower, and the properties. It's not just all about the properties. Okay. So Charles asked a good question. He goes, my question would be I use LinkedIn and reach out to bankers in these markets, or source these markets online like props and foreclosures, and then reach out. So you could do one of two things, Charles. I would go back and look at our recording, and we talked about using the foreclosure list to identify banks. So yes, I would jump on foreclosures.com or the foreclosure listing service or something in those states or those counties that you like. Look at the banks that have debt, and then contact the banks either on LinkedIn or call them directly. Okay. Norm asked a question here. Let me tell you, very simple. Can I recap the affordability calculation? Yes, very easy, Norm. What I did to calculate the home affordability is take the median home price, okay, on the bottom, and then I took the median average income. So if somebody's making 40 grand, the average median income in that city is 40 grand. I divide that by the average home price. If that was 160 grand, so 40 grand divided by 160 would be a 25% affordability rate. And the higher the affordability rate, the better. The lower the affordability rate, bad. Means that people aren't making enough money on average to afford the homes, the housing there. Okay. Median income divided by median home price. And you want that percentage to be high. You don't want it to be low. If it's low, like 10%, I might say maybe somebody's making like 40 grand and the median home price is like 400,000. That's not a good relationship. You want it to roughly be in that 30% range, 33%, even higher at 40 to be really more affordable for places. Okay. Good questions. Any other final questions before I let you guys go on your Monday night back to what you're doing? All right. Well, then we will wrap it up for the evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on the top Note 9 Americas. Talk about the top 20 markets out of the top 40 for distressed notes. Highly recommend you go back and check out the first part of this, the number 40 through 21 from 2 weeks ago, and download that stuff and go from there. But thanks, guys. Thank you, David. Thank you, Norm. Thank you, everybody, for asking questions. Thanks, Ronald. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all. Have a good evening. Be safe out there, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.